Hello everybody, thanks for tuning back in. Today we got the 1917 review. I already put up the plot summary, so now we got the review. And as you may have heard from the plot summary, I love this movie. I thought it was amazing. Very much more enjoyable experience than Like a Boss. So I'll go through I tried to break it down into 3 reasons why I liked it. So the first one, so everybody's been talking about like the idea, the whole fact that it looks like it's all shot in one scene, and that is one of the coolest things ever. Like one long shot scenes, everybody loves a good old long shot scene, like Boogie Nights or whatever. Anytime we've got a long shot scene, it's cool because you always think about how much work goes into putting that shot together. And if you look, I think the channel Insider, you can watch a 10-minute video of what it took to get all of these insane shots in 1917, where it looks like the whole movie is one continuous shot. And I loved that. That was cool, and that's a lot of what everybody's talking about, and I think they should be talking about that, I suppose. But one thing, the first thing I want to talk about is actually the characters, or the actors, and the performances of those actors, which I thought were amazing. And the reason for that is because there's not a lot of talking in the movie, so everything's expression, it's all based on expressions and actions. There's definitely some talking. And the few times that there is talking, aside from the acting, is they kind of meld together to make these really like human moments. And so one of them I mentioned in the plot summary is when he's talking to the Frenchwoman in the city basement. They just have these tender moments where because they can't talk, so it's communicating through gestures, and for the gestures to appear legitimate within the movie, they would have to be gestures that would be able to connect with the viewer as well, and they do that really well. Like you get the idea of what they're trying to convey. Then there's a part where like he gives her the milk because the baby needs the milk, and they just kind of look at each other for a second. And just that looking is enough to convey like this sense of just human gratitude. It's very good stuff. And another moment is at the end where he's talking with the brother of Schofield's talking with the brother. And it's just, you could see the brother slowly realizing what's happening and then slowly just breaking down. But he's a soldier. He's just, you can see the battle within him to maintain his composure while also trying to really think about the gravity of the situation and what's happening. And it's not a good thing that's happening. And they do a great job there with how he reacts to specific just things that make it seem very real. And it's a very powerful scene. But one of my favorite scenes is a very small scene that most people might not even think about, but one that I thought was just a very truly human moment is after Schofield's cut his hand, and he's bandaging it up, and Blake makes a joke how he'll be back to Wankeny in no time. That was a really bad. Wow, that was a really bad British. But he says you'll be back to one. I apologize to everybody who is offended by that British accent. I love Britain. So he says that. But that's not the funny part. It's Schofield's reply is he says, it's not, this is the wrong hand. And he just mutters that kind of to himself, and then they walk off. And something about that, it's such a weird offhand line, but at the same time, something only a true, real human would say. it's so if you know what we're talking about here, you know, like if you could see somebody legitimately saying that, and I loved that line. That was like they don't. There's like I said, there's very few lines, and the fact that that is one line that made it in, and it was for a good reason. I liked it. So, moving on, the second thing I loved about the film was like whatever it was that built all of the settings that they were in, and the fact that they seemed just so like surreal. And so I thought about that. I'm like, why do these seem so weird and just things I've never seen before? And I thought about what surreal. When we think about surreal things, we think about things that you never see ever, or so they seem crazy or fantastical to us. So like you think about fairies and fairy forests and Tolkien and all of that kind of thing is what we think of when we think of surreal imagery. But so if you look at today, if you go back and look at the Star Wars prequels, 1, 2, 3, and then you look at the original films, there's something very different about them, and you'd think because today, or not today, whenever the prequels came out, they had better technology, you'd think you'd be able to create a more surreal atmosphere, or something that seems newer. But for me, when I go back and I watch the two different trilogies, the settings and everything in the original ones seem just so much more surreal to me. And I think it's because it's the same thing with 1917 is because they're not using the like CGI, and I think CGI we've just become so numb to it, at least in creating settings, that numb to the older stuff, I guess maybe, I don't know, but that when we see CGI, we see, you can see CGI in video games all the time. So it's not something new to us. It doesn't feel like something crazy. But when you see the settings in 1917, they look so real because there's no CGI. They're real things happening, but they're real things that you would just never see. Like when he's going through No Man's Land, legit, like I said, it looks like Fallout 3 textures. It looks like something as surreal as like Dante's Inferno, where there's corpses coming out of the walls and just sludge and rotten flesh and everything. Something you'd never see, but because it's being portrayed so realistically using just real things, it looks so surreal. Same with when he's in the ruins and the flares are going over, and most of us are lucky enough. I suppose if you have the ability to watch this video, you're probably somewhere where you're not in a blown up city. So we never see that, and to see the flares go over, just like, I don't know, like mini shooting, like I said, like shooting stars. It looks crazy. You never see that. It's just one of the most beautiful scenes that I've seen in any movie ever, and I loved it. And then when he's running across the battlefield, we've seen you've seen a war movie, you've seen a guy run into battle, but what made it so surreal for me was the fact that it was shot in a way that normally we see running into battle. He's running perpendicular to the battle, and we don't see this like bumpy shot. We see this weird, calm almost shot of him going through this crazy, chaotic scene, but it just follows and follows and follows him, and it just looks so weird, and you've never seen something like that before. So those are the things that stood out to me and made the movie so awesome and surreal for me. But the last thing I want to talk about that I think the movie did great is when you have a war movie or a war video game or anything, a piece of media or culture that talks about war, most of the time it's trying to say something about war, or if it doesn't, because it is something about war, it inherently says something about war, whether it wants to or not, right? When you think of the Vietnam War, we often see it portrayed in a darker light, where soldiers were trapped there, and they're like tortured souls who were trapped there and had to do bad things that they didn't want to do. Some good stories come out, but a lot of them we see are shown in a darker light. Whereas with World War II, sure, there's a lot of dark films about World War II, but a lot of them are the old willy-nilly like hero films where everything's awesome and it's just guys going in and doing great things because we won, and it seemed we portrayed that war as a good war. And there was great things happened in that war, and we did great things. But the danger in portraying films or war as good or men as heroes is you run the risk of portraying war. I feel you run the risk of portraying war as a good thing on accident when you're trying to portray the men as good things. Or we don't portray, by focusing so much on the good things that the men did, we can lose focus of all the bad things that happened in war besides the great heroic things that happened, the good stories. So the reason I like this film so much is it has just a great balance of the good and bad that comes from war, I guess. There's no good that comes from war, but the stories of heroism that come from war. Because in the movie we see our boy Schofield, and he is no doubt a hero. He doesn't want to go on the mission, but he knows he has to, so he keeps going on the mission. He saves the German, even though he wants to shoot him. He saves his friend, promises that he will do the mission, and he does the mission. He puts his life on the line, does these crazy things, and saves the day, right? But at the same time, this film is good because it shows all these heroic things and this great story that comes out of war. But at the same time, it shows all of the horrors and the horrible things that happened in the war, and all the loss that had to lead up to that moment, and everything that Schofield had to go through to get to that moment. He lost his friend, he saw tons of people die, he just went through some of the most, you can see it when he's crying after he gets out of the river. He's just gone through some stuff. And like war affects, he's affected as an individual, and it's affected the individuals around him who've been hurt and harmed, and the people, the woman in the city who's all alone with that baby. He sees all the problems of war. So it does a good job of balancing it, the like heroic actions with the tragedy, and it reminds us that war isn't, even when there are great things and great people in the war, war is just a horrible thing. So I like that. It was good about that. So I don't know if I'm not going to rate any of these films, but I would very much recommend seeing this film. I'll probably go see it again. It was so good. Like by the time I was done, it was 2 hours, and I was like, what, that seemed like an hour and a half. You're just on the edge of your seat the whole time, and it was an amazing experience. But yeah, so tonight I'm going to go see Just Mercy, so we'll go to plot summary and review up for that, but tune in for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.